One of my favorite topics to touch on when doing a what if has to do with Orochimaru, a skilled warrior named one of the 3 legendary Sannin for surviving Hanzo of the Salamander in the war. He's also a brilliant scientist, though his methods are questionable at best when it comes to moral code. Orochimaru served as a primary antagonist for the duration of the first part of Naruto, and as a secondary antagonist for the next, though he quickly evolved more into an anti-hero by the end of Shippuden into the beginning of Boruto. Something I actually enjoyed since Orochimaru is such a wonderful character. But one important thing to note is that he was indeed a villain. He didn't start out as one, to be honest, but he became one quickly and left the village. A trend that seems to be repeated over and over again through the history of 3-man teams, especially those connected in line to Naruto, his family, or his teachers. The legendary Sannin were shattered when one turned rogue and left the village. Team Minato was shattered when the supposedly dead Obito Uchiha turned rogue under Madara Uchiha's influence, and lastly, Sasuke turned rogue when his hatred for his brother, and lust for power, drove him into the arms of Orochimaru. But an interesting story I want to follow has to do with the fact that Orochimaru left the village. He was driven out for human experimentation by Hiruzen Sarutobi, who was too weak to kill Orochimaru. But the thing is, Konoha is not above human experiments, as, ironically, it was Konoha who was attempting to recreate the Kekkei Genkai that allowed for wood release. Konoha and Orochimaru worked together to create the person we now know as Yamato. Orochimaru was partially responsible for many of the good things used in Konoha to be invaluable in the future. So let's see what would have happened if Orochimaru never left the village. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. Orochimaru was born to 2 parents who served Konoha during the First Shinobi World War. Sadly, his parents both perished during this conflict, and he was left alone at a young age to grapple with the concepts of mortality and how not only that people die, but they leave behind people who loved them and needed them. His hatred for mortality and death began as a tiny seed planted by the events of his parents' demise. Hiruzen would comfort the boy and bring him into his own squad. When Orochimaru found a white snake around his parents' grave, Hiruzen told him that it represented good fortune and rebirth. This was something that sparked interest in the child. Orochimaru's heart at this moment was still pure, though he had tendencies to display some rather twisted personality traits. He sought only to change the world for the better. This is a common hope for all of the many primary villains of the story. Madara wanted to cast the infinite Tsukiyomi and end inequality. Obito wanted to craft a world where the dead could live once more. Pain hoped to achieve the power of the Ten Tails to create a super weapon to scare the world into peace through threat of force. Pain was a big believer of the old saying, "Men of peace prepare for war," and it seems that Orochimaru was no exception to that rule. Jiraiya would later say that it was because of the loss of his parents at such a young age that set him down this path, and that is true. Orochimaru was a skilled and talented shinobi who was both intelligent and strong. His prodigious nature caused Hiruzen to have high hopes for him. Orochimaru, as part of Team Hiruzen, would go off on various missions with his squad. He was a large part of the Second Shinobi World War and was utterly shocked at hearing about the death of Naoki, the little brother of Tsunade. He witnessed the pain of that moment and it froze him to his core. But only when Don Kato, Tsunade's lover, was mortally wounded and bled out in her arms did he truly show how much the concept of death and leaving behind loved ones affected him. He witnessed the pain of Tsunade as she was drenched in her lover's blood, a moment that scarred Tsunade for life, causing her to develop hemophobia, a fear that is understandable but not optimal for a medical nin of such renown to have. This moment forced tears from Orochimaru, proving just how much he cared for her and his teammates. Orochimaru displayed a large heart, proving that he was capable of love, but his fear overcame that and it forever changed him. Orochimaru would later be present in the Battle of Amagakure, in which many shinobi and civilians were killed, including Nagato's parents. Orochimaru fought with his squad against the leader of Ame, Hanzo of the Salamander. He had slaughtered all shinobi that stood before him, with only Team Hiruzen standing alive. This caused him to name these ninja the Legendary Sannin. After the Second Shinobi World War had concluded, they were about to leave Ame when they were approached by 3 orphans who begged to be taught ninjutsu to defend themselves. Of course, Orochimaru's first instinct is to perform a mercy killing and put them out of their misery. This seems twisted, and of course it is, but if we stop for a moment and look at the fact that Orochimaru was himself a war orphan, maybe we can understand him a bit more. Orochimaru believed that the best thing that they could do was kill these lonely children, and this is to spare them from the horrors to come. He doesn't want them to experience what he experienced, and to a point must believe in some capacity that it would have been better if he himself had died when his parents did. It's actually a sad thing to think about. Orochimaru wished someone had killed him when his parents died, but alas, this was then Jiraiya stated that he would teach them, and so they left Amagakure without Jiraiya. Orochimaru would also be the one responsible for the rampage of the Eight Tails in Kumogakure. Having disguised himself as a doctor, he would sneak in and confront Blue B, and prescribe him a special medication which actually caused Blue B to enter a genjutsu state, which caused the Eight Tails to escape. It was during the ensuing battle that the horn of the Eight Tails was severed. Orochimaru would take some of the DNA of Blue B from the horn as a result. Orochimaru also took part in the Third Shinobi World War, and his exploits were so great that he was considered a candidate to become the Hokage alongside Minato Namikaze. However, after these things, Orochimaru would join the Anbu Root Division, working directly under Danzo Shimura. During this time, he actually formed a team of his own, consisting of 2 unnamed shinobi and Anko Mitarashi. Orochimaru would eventually meet Kabuto Yakashi while accompanying Danzo to force the boy's mentor, Nono, into a mission. This would eventually lead to both Nono and Kabuto Yakashi being forced to kill one another in separate missions, in which Orochimaru would finish off the survivor. However, when Kabuto proved to be the successor, he spared the boy and took him under his wing. Orochimaru's actions and experimentation grew less and less discreet when he was passed over for the position of 4th Hokage by his mentor. Under the sponsorship of Danzo Shimura, Orochimaru began experimentations which led to the utilization of Senju DNA to recreate wood release. To do so, Orochimaru kidnapped 60 test subjects to subject to experiments to which all but one died. The one that survived was Yamato, and he would later go on to join Root under the name Kinoe. This did not stop Orochimaru though. He would continue his experiments until he managed to perfect the use of cells enough to inject them into Shin Uchiha's Sharingan-filled right arm, which would later be transplanted to Danzo Shimura, who would begin a near-obsessive trend of taking dojutsu for himself. When he learned Ao possessed a Byakugan, he sent his agents to take it, though this was largely a failure. The same occurred with Kakashi Hatake, and despite everything Kakashi had done for him, he still attempted to take his Sharingan, and even managed to take the Sharingan of Shisui. Danzo was cuckoo for Sharingan. Orochimaru continued various experiments on other people and prisoners, including Konoha Shinobi, with which he could develop the living corpse reincarnation technique and somehow return by transferring his consciousness into another person's body to conceivably live forever by taking over body after body as the last one begins to deteriorate. Honestly, this technique mixed with the vanishing facial copy technique seems like a better idea than even the karma seals used by the Otsutsuki, specifically Ishiki and Momoshiki. However, there is one glaring issue that the karma seal does not possess, and that being that the victim of the living corpse reincarnation jutsu will eventually reject the user after 3 years, causing the user to need to jump to a new body every so often. However, the karma seals also have the issue that if your process is discovered too quickly and the user just decides they don't want to become you, they can pull a Boruto and attempt suicide to stop the process, so neither technique is perfect. However, there is a bright side to Orochimaru's technique, as if you happen to find the perfect host, you could theoretically live out their full lifetime. However, the odds of that are very low, and if you can manage to finish cultivating a living vessel, their lifespan becomes that of your own race due to changing their DNA fundamentally. So I guess there are points both for and against this. However, I just can't help but think about what it would be like if Orochimaru studied and worked with Ishiki as a member of Kara. That would be interesting. Later, on the outskirts of Kirigakure, Orochimaru finds a boy named Kimimaro. This boy was the last living member of the Kaguya clan. And before you ask, yes, it is that Kaguya, as in Otsutsuki. And while Kaguya never developed a Sharingan or a Byakugan, or anything else from Hagoromo or Hamura, they were granted something special. Truthfully, it was something about as cool as a Sharingan. You see, Kaguya had an ability known as All-Killing Ash Bones. This ability allowed her to project her bones outside of her body and strike people with them, and once someone was struck, both they and the bones would deteriorate on a molecular level. This would reduce the user to nothing but ashes. While her descendants of the Kaguya clan did not, to my knowledge, possess the ability to turn people to ash with their bones, they did possess the same manipulation of them. The Kekkei Genkai was known as Shikotsumyaku, or translated to English, Dead Bone Pulse. So naturally, Orochimaru is interested in this boy. He hoped to take over his body. Actually, that sounded better in my head. Orochimaru is a villain, but he's not that kind of villain. Sadly though, Kimimaro was sick with the same terminal illness that Itachi and Sai's older brother had, the dreaded Kishimoto disease. The symptoms of this disease are coughing blood and an unavoidable and very dramatic death. And so, wanting to steer clear of that, Orochimaru would eventually start searching for another host, eventually Sasuke. But that is too deep in the story, and I'm actually not planning to go that far. Through Kimimaro's help, not only did Orochimaru discover Jugo and his clan's abilities, but he also learned of Ryuchi Cave and the Snake Sage, being from which Orochimaru learned to mold Sage Chakra. Sadly though, Orochimaru was incapable of learning to use Sage Mode. However, his discovery of these two things caused him to begin research into Sage transformations, which is how he would develop the curse mark that he would first test on his student, Anko, and later give to each member of the Sound Four as well as Kimimaro. He would also encounter the Iburi clan, a clan with the uncontrollable Kekkei Genkai that forced upon them the ability to turn into smoke, and on a windy day, that is fatal, and so most of the clan tended to live in a cave devoid of wind. Orochimaru found them and managed to help stabilize their ability with his curse marks. To that end, the clan happily donated many members to his research. He also witnessed Itachi training as a child, which was the start of the beginning of his interest in the Uchiha clan. Orochimaru also allied with Amagi in hopes of kidnapping the villagers of the Land of Sea in hopes of inventing shinobi who could breathe underwater, but grew disinterested and cancelled it. This is around the time he wiped Anko's memories and left her. Slowly though, Orochimaru's test subjects began to die off, and Hiruzen began to investigate this, finding Orochimaru to be at fault. Hiruzen knew that he should kill his student, but what do you know, the Lord Turd failed to do so and let Orochimaru escape. As Orochimaru ran, he was attacked by Kakashi Hatake, though he managed to defeat them. However, Orochimaru was not out of the proverbial or literal woods yet, as he had let his guard down when approached by a harmless, well, I guess it's harmless, I'm not a herpetologist, snake. Inside the snake's mouth was an explosive tag that wounded him horribly. Orochimaru fled to the cave where the Iburi clan lived and killed them all except Yukimi, whom he tried to capture for her blood, hoping to use her clan's ability to escape, only to fail at the combined efforts of Kakashi Hatake and Kinoe, his own creation. He did, however, manage to escape, and as he did so, he destroyed all of his facilities. Orochimaru was only confronted thereafter by Jiraiya, who pleaded with him to come back to Konoha, but what was left for him there? By this time, Orochimaru had become vindictive towards the third Hokage and the village as a whole. He left the village in a permanent fashion. He would join the Akatsuki, where he'd be partnered up with Sasori. However, when Itachi showed up, Orochimaru became obsessed with the Uchiha, opting to attack him in hopes of stealing his body and getting the Sharingan. This didn't end well for him though, as when he attempted to take his body, he was easily overwhelmed by Best Boy and put into a genjutsu, having his left hand cut off to keep him from breaking the genjutsu. Thus, Orochimaru left the organization and proceeded to search for a new body. Sasori never did forgive him for that. When Orochimaru sent his agent Kabuto to the Akatsuki to spy on them, Sasori used his technique, Memory Concealing Manipulative Sand Technique, to turn Kabuto into a double agent. Orochimaru would eventually be tipped off by Kabuto about this, which would lead to conflict with Sasori, in which Sasori would make use of his third Kazekage human puppet. However, Orochimaru had already discovered a new kinjutsu that had originally been used by Tobirama Senju before it was sealed up, the Impure World Reincarnation Jutsu. Through this, he wished to prove superior, which to a point he did, as the Kazekage managed to defeat the puppet. However, there were unforeseen circumstances in which the third Kazekage broke free from Orochimaru's contract and began to run wild. He would later witness Mizuki kill a comrade on a mission and decide to make him the test subject of a curse seal he was working on. However, it was incomplete, and once Mizuki used it, he was crippled by it, never to be a shinobi again. All of this is what led to what we know of Orochimaru now, but a thought comes to my mind. What if Orochimaru had never left the village? What if, instead of Minato Namikaze, it's Orochimaru who's chosen to be Hokage? I've told a few similar scenarios like this, but I've never told the story with Orochimaru being Hokage from the start. So let's try that. Now, if you think the position will stop Orochimaru from his scientific passions and his boundless curiosity that borders the macabre, well, you'd be wrong. Orochimaru is a good Hokage, yes, and he spends time making sure that the village is safe. However, with his resources and political immunity to practically every law in Konoha, he's free to do whatever he desires. And to that end, he makes heavy use of Danzo and the Root Division. Having once served Danzo, now Danzo serves him. How the tables have turned. Orochimaru gets to experience what it's like now that the open-toed shinobi sandal is on the other foot. But honestly, Danzo, while jealous like always, actually respects Orochimaru as a Hokage far more than any other, due to the fact that Orochimaru is just as ruthless and bold as he is himself. And Orochimaru definitely loves having the old Kadra around to make his experiments even more possible. Orochimaru would manage to have all of the things he had previously discovered and more. He would not only manage to create Kinoe and make the arm that Danzo so cherished, but he also manages to perfect the process, allowing for many of the most trusted and skilled shinobi to be implanted with Hashirama Senju's cells, which leads to a squad of shinobi bearing wood release and strong regenerative powers. Orochimaru would also eventually employ the Sound Four as we remember them in his ranks as Anbu officers, though that isn't until a little later. His obsession with the Uchiha would continue, but he wouldn't be as focused on Sasuke and Itachi. Konoha would advance technology very quickly, but let's further dive into the lore and what would happen. As usual, on the night that Kushina is to give birth, the village is attacked. Now, not much of this placement will change at all, considering that Kushina is still the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, so her safety would be paramount. The masked man would show up and kidnap Kushina to take the tailed beast out of her, and he's largely successful. But remember when I said that Orochimaru had a bunch of wood release users now thanks to the cells of Hashirama within them? They would appear here, and when the masked man is defeated by Minato, the new Senju squad appears and uses their wood release to pacify the Nine Tails, allowing it to be resealed into Kushina, preventing her death. In this way, both Minato and Kushina survive the day and are happily reunited with their newborn son, Naruto. Now, because of this, the Uchiha clan are suspected of being the ones who set the entire attack in motion, which causes tensions to rise between Konoha and the Uchiha clan. Orochimaru values the Uchiha clan, but he isn't going to let them get in the way. Things would slowly escalate, and Itachi would inform him that a threat is imminent, and so Orochimaru would make the executive decision to put down the uprising personally. Now, of course, he doesn't use Itachi. Instead, he uses the entirety of the Anbu to do the deed. But the thing that differs here are the special orders given. This is not an extinction of a clan. This is the quelling of an uprising. One that the Uchiha, for all of their accurate Sharingan perception, are too blind to see. The Anbu are ordered to go in, kill whoever they have to, but offer quarter to any who surrender, and be sure to spare all non-combatants, including women and children. In doing so, he eliminates the fighting force of the Uchiha in a conflict that is as bloodless as it can get. If you're asking if Danzo still takes Shisui's eye, the answer is no. Orochimaru takes it instead. Danzo never had a chance. You think Orochimaru doesn't want the ability to turn anyone into his yes man with subtlety? So yeah, Shisui gets self-oofed at the Naka River, and Itachi still gets the Mangekyo. But Itachi and Sasuke get to remain relatively happy. Well, actually no. Itachi is cast out anyway for being a traitor. They know that he and Shisui were the ones who snitched, and you know what they say, snitches get stitches. As a member of the Uchiha, he also can't just live in the village without being judged as a traitor. So what's an Itachi to do? Join the Akatsuki? Well, actually he might. If he remains in the Anbu, he might get ordered to spy on the Akatsuki by Orochimaru. This is a task Itachi faithfully executes. All the while, Orochimaru begins to attempt to calm both sides. The Uchiha are still a little sore and their pride is shattered. The rest of the populace seems to hate them for attempting to rise up against the Leaf. I mean, the disappearance of a majority of people in one of Konoha's most prestigious clans isn't going to go unnoticed, and some prejudice does begin to take root. But good old Orochimaru has a plan. He decides to eat dirt for the Uchiha. He visits their compound, personally apologizes to Fugaku, if he's even still alive, whoever the current head is, and explains everything to the best of his ability to make it seem all in good faith. He would then send them relief and help them rebuild and take care of them until they can stand on their feet again. He would also defend them in public speeches, which not only does good for the Uchiha, but also for those who have slowly begun to hate the Uchiha. Slowly, he is reversing the damage, and even further, he makes himself out to be the peacemaker and merciful leader he wants them to believe he is. There is some dissent, calling him weak, but it is light, as he is also defended by his quick and tough actions to put the uprising down before it officially begins. In this way, he slowly begins to reform relations between the Uchiha and the Leaf, which in turn makes it stronger. It also means that Orochimaru has plenty of test subjects with which to work. Naruto would be in the academy, where he's actually found to be quite the prodigy, not too unlike Sasuke, who ever since the exile of his brother, Itachi, is focused on by Fugaku, who hopes to use the boy to restore not only the pride of the Uchiha, but the pride of Fugaku's own family line. Fugaku doesn't blame Itachi though. He understands exactly what his son was doing and is proud that Itachi decided to become his own man. However, this still results in Sasuke becoming the new pride of the Uchiha, with him bearing the family name with every step he takes. Given that Sasuke has a powerful teacher, he and Naruto are both the two strongest in the academy. Sasuke is far more intelligent and skilled than Naruto, but Naruto himself is pretty strong and close enough to give Sasuke a true run for his money. Sakura still has a thing for Sasuke, and Naruto, well, in personality he remains unchanged, except he isn't hated, nor is his father the Hokage, so Naruto basically stays the same. He does indeed wish to become Hokage one day, as so many others do. Sasuke wants to restore his clan's name. He also wishes to find Itachi and reunite with his lost brother. Sasuke doesn't believe that what Itachi had done was wrong. He had betrayed the clan, yeah, but he also saved them and the village, and despite all this, he was treated as a villain. Kushina does get an eye out from the villagers due to being Kurama's vessel. Many people blame her for letting it out, and so she's somewhat of an outcast. But she has Minato, and because Minato is a great war hero, and also one of the ones to reseal Kurama, they still treat Kushina with respect. Thankfully, Naruto is generally disregarded as a reason why it happened. Some of the more intelligent villagers who are in the know for Fuinjutsu will probably cast some slight blame on him, given that the seal was weakened due to his birth, but the hatred he faces is almost infinitesimally smaller than what he faces in the original timeline. Sakura's life is almost entirely unchanged. All three pass and graduate, and because I'm too lazy to come up with another list of teams, and I really hate splitting up Team 7, I'm going to say they all remain on the same team. They're sent to meet their new mentor. Naruto is excited, and he and Sasuke plant a chalkboard eraser over the door, not only for laughs, but to test their Jonin's abilities. Kakashi fails their little test and already knows that he's going to hate this, but he gives it the benefit of the doubt and continues on. He has them introduce themselves as always. Naruto wants to be Hokage, Sasuke wants to reunite with his brother, and Sakura really wants to get married, namely to Sasuke, which causes the boy to feel plenty of awkwardness anytime she's around. And while many things have changed, one thing doesn't. Kakashi. Everything about Kakashi remains the same except for his prior experiences with tracking Orochimaru or his encounters with Yamato, as the latter is still a member of Root, and was never commanded to kill Hiruzen. That being said, Kakashi would still do the bell test with them. How Naruto would react to that wouldn't be too different than before. He would likely attack Kakashi with a Rasengan, which I assume he would have been taught by Minato by now. But Kakashi still humiliates him with 1,000 years of death. Sasuke displays his own techniques. Kakashi's wondering where these kids are keeping all this chakra, but still manages to avoid it. In the end, they don't get the bells. The big difference here is that Naruto would not attempt to steal their food and eat it all himself like in the original timeline. Naruto hasn't changed much in this timeline mentally and personality wise, but he still has a mother, and that would likely get him in trouble doing something like that, so he doesn't do it. Kakashi would tell them the secret of teamwork, but he would tell them that if they work together and get the bells, still one of them would need to stay behind. Only 2 of them will become Kakashi's students, 1 will be sent back to the academy. They need to work together even at the risk of one of them failing, and so after lunch and a short break, he gives them until nightfall to succeed. They work hard as a team and many times get close to taking them. With Naruto and Sasuke's skills and Sakura's brains, they would manage to set a trap for Kakashi. The plan consists of Naruto hiding and creating a shadow clone to lure Kakashi into a trap, and then the real Naruto would jump out to take it. However, knowing Kakashi, he wouldn't fall for such a thing so easily, and so they would use a backup, Sasuke, to take the bells. This succeeds and they manage to take them. It's then that in the midst of the celebration, they realize they must decide who stays behind. Who would be chosen? Given that they couldn't choose who to send back to the academy, they return the bells to Kakashi and tell him that they couldn't have done it alone and wouldn't be able to choose. They ask instead for Kakashi to choose for them who should be sent back. Unbeknownst to them, this was the answer Kakashi wanted. Because of this, he gives them all a shot at being his students, much to the entire team's delight. Of course, their elation subsides quickly as they realize that their missions will be a bit more bland, things like saving kittens and cleaning up the streets. But their luck turns when they go to see the 4th Hokage. Orochimaru is just doing his daily work. He has to get business out of the way before pleasure begins. He's met with Naruto, who almost seems to demand a mission from him. This boy was enough to cause Orochimaru to laugh. He reminded him so much of Jiraiya that it was almost scary, but beyond that, if he recalled correctly, Naruto Namikaze was the son of Minato Namikaze, and Minato's sensei at one point in time actually was Jiraiya. It almost seemed perfect, so out of respect for his friend, he decides to send Naruto and the rest of Team 7 out on a mission to the Land of Waves, escorting Tazuna. Now, Orochimaru is no slouch, and he knows what's going down in the Land of Waves, and that's why he's sending Team Kakashi. He wants to see if this team could become the new Legendary Sannin. He approves the mission. So they begin to go to the Land of Waves, and they're met with the Demon Brothers who plan to kill Tazuna to stop the building of a bridge, which will make trading with the mainland easier. And so the Demon Bros show up to kill them, starting with Naruto. Naruto's not going to go down easily though. Together with Sasuke and Kakashi, the Demon Bros are defeated and tied up with their own chains. When they continue to make their way to the Land of Waves, they're confronted by Zabuza Momochi. Kakashi engages Zabuza in the stead of his team, and all within the team are astonished. However, when Kakashi is caught in a water prison, it's up to Sasuke and Naruto to save him. They manage to do so in the exact same way as in the original timeline by having Naruto transform into a Demon Wind Shuriken. This causes Zabuza to break away from the imprisoned Kakashi. Kakashi would escape, but before they can do anything more, Haku, in the guise of a hidden mist hunter nin, appears and puts Zabuza into a fake death state that allows him to appear to be dead to everyone. But Kakashi already understands this, as he knows it's not common practice for a hunter nin to take their quarry away to dispose of. They do it on the spot. As they continue on, Kakashi of course has to rest because he overused his Sharingan. However, he gives his team the orders to train, starting with climbing up a tree with chakra centered on the bottom of their feet. However, Naruto and Sasuke have already come so far past this that the objective of getting to the top of the tree is seemingly easy. They would all head back to the house for dinner, where they would encounter Inari, a boy who had lost his father to Gato's cruelty. Seeing what happens to heroes, Inari begins to believe that following the path of heroism is futile and will ultimately lead to death. To that end, Team 7 is chastised by Inari for their useless idealism, and told that it will only get them killed. Sasuke would speak up before Naruto has the chance to jump down the boy's throat. He tells them that it is true that sometimes heroes have to die or give up something precious to them. He tells him about Itachi and how to save the village he had to tell on his clan. This caused his clan to hate him as a traitor and would cause the village to despise him as an Uchiha. He tells Inari that in the end Itachi was exiled from the village, but that he saved what was important to him and that Sasuke would find him one day and bring him back. Later, all of Team 7 goes out to the bridge to watch its creation. They're confronted by Zabuza and Haku. Sasuke is caught in the demonic mirroring ice crystals technique. Naruto, however, is intelligent enough to understand that it's a trap and not jump in. Instead, he attempts to attack it from the outside. To that end, he creates quite a few shadow clones with Rasengan, and after some trial and error, realizes he needs to destroy them all simultaneously. He manages to do so, defeating Haku's technique at freeing Sasuke. Even so, the two don't stand much of a chance against Haku, and at that point it looks like Naruto is killed as he's struck and knocked off the bridge. Sasuke's Sharingan immediately mature to their 3 Tomoe level, and using his advanced perception, he slowly begins to learn how to react to Haku. But the battle is cut short when Haku sees Zabuza about to die and rushes in to take the attack for him. Haku dies due to Kakashi's attack. It's around this time that Gato and his men show up. They would be countered by the villagers of the Land of Waves. But a stalemate occurs due to Gato and his men holding Inari and Tsunami hostage. Or so it seems, until Naruto makes it back to the top of the bridge and sucker punches those holding Inari and Tsunami. He escapes with them, and after watching Gato and his men deface Haku's body, Zabuza snaps and kills many of them, including Gato, before dying himself. The villagers would then rush after Gato's men and drive them from the village. Because of the actions taken there, the villagers would rename the bridge the Great Naruto Bridge for Naruto's actions that allowed for them to fight back against Gato's dirty playing. Team 7 then proceeds to make their way home. Kakashi would be debriefed by Orochimaru. Then he, along with Kurenai and Asuma, would offer his team up to be in the upcoming Chunin Exams, which Orochimaru would be pleased to accept. Kakashi informs his team about it and lets them decide if they should go for it. They all decide beyond a shadow of a doubt that they should. But as they go, Rock Lee appears to challenge Sasuke, the pride of the Uchiha. Sasuke offers plenty of a fight, but Rock Lee's 8 gates technique is enough to overpower Sasuke. Sasuke would have lost the battle had Might Guy not appeared to stop Lee. The 3 of them continue on their way and eventually enter the Chunin Exams. That being said, Team 7 becomes part of the Rookie 9. The youths tend to stick together during the meeting room, but it should be noted that neither Kabuto nor Team Dosu would be here. Kabuto is currently working for Orochimaru as a member of the Anbu, and Otogakure, the village originally founded by Orochimaru in the original timeline, doesn't exist here since Orochimaru never left the village. Gaara and his siblings are here, but they have no ulterior motives, and the 4th Kazekage is never killed, so there's no real conflict. And Naruto isn't going to just shout at the top of his lungs that he'll beat everyone. The first exam begins. Sasuke quickly understands the true objective here, and so he begins to use his Sharingan to cheat. Sakura just happened to be smart enough to know all the answers, and Naruto, Well, nothing really changes there, he fails to answer a single question. Then comes the Forest of Death. As said before, the Hidden Sand aren't here, and as Hokage, Orochimaru won't be attacking Sasuke or anything. Given that they won't have to deal with the Hidden Sound or Orochimaru, it's mostly easy street for Team 7. They then move on to the exam's third and final stage, a two-part exhibition tourney. This first fight is with Sasuke and Yoroi. Sasuke wins soundly because not only is he stronger and in possession of a fully matured Sharingan, but he's also capable of using ninjutsu without losing control of his curse mark, specifically because he has no curse mark. The next matches look a little different though because we need to account for people who won't be there, namely Team Dosu. The issue with this is that we would have an uneven number of warriors here, meaning one of them will automatically pass into the next round without a fight. Obviously, the MVPs of the previous tests were the Sand siblings, Gaara, Kankuro, and Temari, and given that Gaara is the strongest of this three, he will get to move on without a fight. This means that the matchups look like this. Sasuke Uchiha vs Yoroi Akado, Shikamaru Nara vs Shino Aburame, Misame Tsurugi vs Kankuro, Sakura Haruno vs Ino Yamanaka, Tenten vs Temari, Naruto Namikaze vs Kiba Inuzuka, Hinata Hyuga vs Neji Hyuga, and Rock Lee vs Choji Akamichi. Next is Misame vs Kankuro. This is basically the same as in the series, so I'm sure you know Kankuro smashes. Sakura and Ino would knock each other out, Temari defeats Tenten with little effort, Naruto farts in Kiba's snout and floors him with the power of garlic ramen, and Neji beats his poor cousin senseless. Now as for Choji and Lee, this is a little tougher for me. I'm not exactly sure. Rock Lee could probably overpower the defenses of Choji, so if it's all the same to you, I say that Lee moves on. After this, they get a month off from the exams to train. During this time, Naruto trains with Minato, but Jiraiya appears and offers to aid the young shinobi. Together, Naruto and Jiraiya would go off to train, and Jiraiya would teach Naruto how to use Sage Mode. Given how Naruto has already mastered the Rasengan, he has plenty enough chakra control to use Sage Mode. Sasuke trains with Kakashi in the meantime and manages to learn the Chidori. When the month is up, the second round begins. Neji faces off against Naruto, but there's a difference here. If you recall, Naruto was struck by Neji's gentle fist technique, but he only pulled out the win because the Nine Tails chakra forced his Tenketsu back open. Naruto does not have the Nine Tails, so if he is struck, he will more than likely go down and stay that way. I give this to Neji. Next is Sasuke vs Gaara. If anyone remembers this, Sasuke beat Gaara. Gaara would be beaten and probably would have a mental breakdown or something. Kankuro vs Shino. If you remember this battle correctly, Shino won. And as for Temari vs Rock Lee, well, given that Lee was capable of defeating Gaara, I highly doubt that he couldn't beat Temari, and so Temari is defeated and Lee moves on. Semifinals. Sasuke Uchiha vs Neji Hyuga, Shino Aburame vs Rock Lee. Honestly, even though Sasuke is fast and further has the Chidori, I don't know if Chidori could pierce palm rotation, and Neji could likely keep up with Sasuke as he is still considered stronger than Lee outside of the 8 gates. I feel like Sasuke could win, but it heavily favors Neji, and so I'm giving it to Neji. As for Lee and Shino, I don't think Shino could keep up with Lee's speed, and unless he can use his bugs to defend him faster than Gaara can use his sand, I feel like Shino gets blitzed by Lee. So we move on to the finals. Neji Hyuga versus Rock Lee. Honestly, Rock Lee wins. Now, you may be thinking that this doesn't sound right, given that Lee was always considered weaker than Neji, but you need to understand that every time Lee and Neji sparred, Lee never used the 8 gates. Lee's speed is incredibly high, and it's only increased by his 8 gates, and more often than not, speed is an invaluable stat in a fight, as it means you can blitz if you're strong enough and stalemate if you're too weak and your opponent has no area attacks. Neji happens to have neither of those. And even in the original timeline, when Lee fought Gaara, Neji couldn't even see Lee's movements upon removing his weighted clothing, let alone the 8 gates. Lee has more strength than Neji in the 8 gates, and he has more speed. Neji won't even see it coming. Lee will dominate. Lee would win the Chunin Exams, and as such, Lee becomes a Chunin. And due to Neji's prowess, he also gets granted Chunin. Sakura? Nah, she and Tenten both end up passed over, and sadly so do Naruto and Sasuke. Team 7 is bummed out about it, but Kakashi tells him to be pleased that they made it as far as they did at such a young age, and tells him to keep trying, and eventually they will make it. Now, the search for Tsunade doesn't happen the same as it did before, though it does still happen. What happens next is that Itachi and Kisame come to Konoha. Itachi would, while here, send a crow to Orochimaru in secret and tell him of what's going on and what the Akatsuki have been up to and what they want. Itachi and Kisame would move towards the Namikaze household. Itachi would surprise Minato and immediately cast Tsukiyomi on him and put him under, much like he would do to Kakashi later on. However, Minato would perish when Kisame gets there, as he doesn't want the yellow flash of the leaf catching up to them after they take Kushina. This was not in Itachi's plans, but Kisame had done it before he could stop him, and so there was no going back. They capture Kushina and go to leave, but are stopped by Kakashi. Itachi casts Tsukiyomi over Kakashi as well to secure their escape. Orochimaru would send soldiers to stop them according to Itachi's command, but Kisame manages to defeat them all, and the two bring Kushina back to Pain, who strips her of the Nine Tails. All of this results in Kushina's death. Naruto would be heartbroken by the deaths of his parents, and upon hearing that it was Itachi who had done it, grows vindictive and begins to hate Itachi, hoping to kill him. With Kakashi under a mind-rending genjutsu, Orochimaru would send Jiraiya alone to get Tsunade, specifically because Naruto was in no condition to follow. Naruto's hatred of Itachi and Sasuke's faith in his brother causes the two to start clashing and drives a wedge between Team 7. Sasuke is adamant that there's an explanation, but Naruto can't see beyond his own anger. He would leave the village to train with Jiraiya upon his return with Tsunade. Tsunade would teach Sakura, and Sasuke be left alone to train by himself. Orochimaru, seeing an opportunity to stave off boredom, decides he will mentor Sasuke personally. As Sakura is training under Tsunade and shares similarities, such as natural, medical, and intellectual strength, as well as possessing a powerful personality, Naruto on the other hand is like Jiraiya, possessing skills and large chakra reserves, and an eccentric personality. Sasuke was not too unlike Orochimaru, or how he had used to be, hopeful in life and watching things he loved slip away. For the sake of not being left out, he would train with Sasuke, and help him use his many snake-based techniques, and even put on him the cursed mark of heaven. Sasuke beats the odds and survives it, and further cultivates it through medication, which unlocks for him a second stage. By this time, Kimimaro has died from his illness, but the other members of the Sound Force still exist, and Orochimaru has Sasuke train under them for a time, growing stronger. After the 2.5-year time skip, Sasuke and Sakura would meet up together to reform Team 7. However, Jiraiya returns to the village alone. He informs Sasuke that Naruto is planning to kill Itachi, and as such left during the night. This startles Sasuke, but before he can rush off to find Itachi, first he's assigned a mission by Orochimaru to save Gaara, the 4th Kazekage's son, from the Akatsuki. Sasuke takes this as a win, given that the Akatsuki would be the organization that Itachi's working for. Sasuke rushes off with Team 7 in hopes of knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone. Gaara is sadly killed when his tailed beast is stripped from him. Sakura manages to save Kankuro from Sasori's poison, and they set off to find and retrieve Gaara. They're encountered by Itachi, whom Sasuke tries to reason with. He tells Itachi that Naruto's coming to kill him, and Itachi knows this much, but nonetheless he stands in their way, though he offers token resistance and is defeated. It's then that they find that Deidara is escaping with Gaara's body, and Sasuke transforms into his second stage curse mark form, and using his wings catches up with Deidara and defeats him, though this is only a clay clone. While Sasuke and Kakashi are doing this, Sakura and Chiyo are busy fighting Sasori and manage to kill him. Chiyo then uses her technique, One's Own Life Reincarnation, to resurrect Gaara at the expense of her own life. After the completion of this mission, they return to the Leaf and are allowed to search for Itachi after reporting in to Orochimaru. The entire village scrambles to destroy the Akatsuki, though they make a special request to keep Itachi alive. During this time, Asuma is killed by Hidan and Kakazu, and those 2 members of the Akatsuki are prioritized by the Leaf. Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi go to face them. Shikamaru manages to deal with Hidan, and as for Kakazu, Team 7 kills him by destroying all of his hearts. During this time, Jiraiya is in Amagakure to study the Akatsuki and find its leadership. Unfortunately, he does, and they kill him. Meanwhile, Sasuke and 7 other squad mates are off searching for Itachi. Many of the members are wondering why the 4th Hokage has placed priority on bringing Itachi back alive when he was the one who attacked the Leaf, but Sasuke suspects that it was because Itachi isn't a villain and has been undercover the whole time. Around this time, Naruto has found Itachi and is preparing to engage him. Naruto would be using Sage Mode and Itachi would be using his Mangekyo Sharingan. Naruto would close his eyes to keep Itachi from casting Tsukiyomi and would rush him with shadow clones. Itachi would begin use of Amaterasu, but Naruto would toss his awesome red Haori at him to block out the flames. And when Itachi makes use of his Susanoo, Naruto would attempt to attack still. Even though Itachi hides behind the Yata mirror, I still believe that Naruto could break through with a Sage Art Big Ball Rasengan. My reasoning is that the Yata Mirror is stated to be similar to the truth-seeking orbs used by the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, Obito, and Madara. It's stated that the Yata Mirror possesses all 5 basic nature transformations and both yin release and yang release. If it truly works like a truth-seeking orb, then the only thing that can possibly break through it would be Senjutsu, as proven in the 4th Shinobi World War. So I see Naruto breaking through and pressuring Itachi. Meanwhile, Itachi's stamina begins to drop out as his illness takes its toll due to the strain of the use of his Mangekyo Sharingan. In the end, Itachi keels over before he can give Naruto the satisfaction of killing him, which leaves Naruto frustrated. Naruto leaves to return to the village and manages to bypass the 8-man squad as he does so. Sasuke would reach where Itachi was and find him dead and covered in wounds. His Sharingan would suddenly evolve into Mangekyo from his sorrow. He would wrap up Itachi's body and bring it back to Konoha, where he would take it to the Uchiha compound. There he would bring it to he and Fugaku's home. Fugaku would then state that Sasuke should take his eyes to achieve the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Sasuke is at first against this idea, as it would be a desecration of Itachi's body, but Fugaku states that this is what's best, and that it would allow Itachi to always protect him. And so Sasuke does so. The formation of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan interests Orochimaru, and he begins to crave for it himself. Meanwhile, Pain would attack Kumogakure to take the 8 Tails. He would decimate the village, but would not find it there. Naruto returns to inform Orochimaru that Itachi is dead, and Orochimaru would state that he knows. He would further inform Naruto that Jiraiya was killed in Amagakure at the hands of Pain, leader of the Akatsuki. Naruto's hit hard by this. Just as soon as he had come back from avenging his parents, his godfather is taken from him too. He thinks about it. If he had stayed behind with Jiraiya, then maybe he would have been there on mission with him, and maybe Jiraiya wouldn't have died. Naruto laments this. And all the while, Sakura avoids Naruto for what he had done. Word begins to spread that Itachi wasn't a traitor and was really an undercover agent, and most of Sasuke's friends, including those who had been the Rookie 9, also seemed to avoid him, with Ino downright hating Naruto for hurting Sasuke. Elsewhere, Pain was unsuccessful in finding the 8 Tails, but he knows that he can claim the next best thing. He recalls that one of the 8 Tails' horns was missing, and that, historically, had been done by Orochimaru of the Hidden Leaf. That is where he sets his sights next. Meanwhile, Naruto walks the streets. Some of his friends don't blame him, and the village doesn't prosecute him due to the fact that he was acting on incomplete information under the objective of destroying the Akatsuki. Naruto himself realizes this, and slowly begins to realize Itachi may not have been the person who he was supposed to kill after all. Naruto intentionally avoids Sasuke, but the two eventually cross paths, which leads to Sasuke chasing Naruto down and beating him viciously. It's Sasuke's hope to avenge his brother by killing Naruto, and Naruto doesn't fight back. He believes he deserved it. He looks to Sasuke with tears in his eyes and begs him to kill him, telling him that he inflicted the same pain onto Sasuke as had been inflicted upon himself. And he didn't even kill the right man. It was likely Kisame who had killed Minato and Kushina. Naruto killed an innocent man and by all accounts a hero, but worst of all, he had killed Sasuke's treasured brother. He begs Sasuke to take vengeance, but Sasuke can't. He can't bring himself to kill Naruto. For the longest time, they just sit in silence, but when they finally speak, Sasuke tries to tell Naruto that while he is angry, he understands now what Naruto was feeling when his parents died, and his unending anger and desire to kill Naruto for what he had done to his brother taught him to understand why Naruto had done it. Sasuke admits that he is even still considering killing Naruto, but for the sake of Itachi, who would not want this, decides not to. He then tells Naruto that he forgives him for what he did, but warns him that he will never forget. Things will never be the same between them ever again. There will always be resentment between the two, and Naruto agrees. They decide to limit their interactions, only coming together if the village needs them. And it's about the time that he utters these words that there's screaming in the village. Pain is attacking. He's looking for the Horn of Gyuki. Naruto in Sage Mode, as well as Sasuke with his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, begin to fight against these 6 Paths of Pain. Together with the likes of Kakashi and even Orochimaru himself, they managed to repel the attack and destroy each of the paths. They would find Nagato hiding in a papier-mâché tree and would kill him and Konan both, taking their bodies. Orochimaru is all too pleased to get his hands on a set of Rinnegan like those that Madara Uchiha possessed. On the other hand, we can't forget about Danzo here, who desperately wants these for himself as well. The 5 Kage summon occurs and Orochimaru goes. His ruthlessness and cunning is considered for the leadership position, though there is some fear about how disloyal and near insane in strategy he can be. But this is disregarded and he's allowed to lead the united shinobi forces against the Akatsuki, who are declaring war on them. The coalition brings all of their forces together and ready to go to war, Naruto and Sasuke included. Obito manages to take one of the Rinnegan held in Konoha, but the second one can't be taken as Danzo has already taken it for himself and secretly implanted it into his head. Danzo reports both as stolen by Tobi, which can't be disproved. Danzo secretly plots the downfall of Orochimaru and begins to plan his own ascent. The united shinobi forces are set against an army of Zetsu as Tobi gets the Ten Tails ready. When the final battle gets underway, Kakashi and Naruto and Sasuke team up against Tobi and manage to wound him, forcing him to retreat. He feeds the Horn of Gyuki to the Geto statue, which completes it and marks the return of the Ten Tails. Obito would absorb it and become its Jinchuriki. As the battle continues, things get rougher, and Naruto and Sasuke fail to do any real lasting damage to Obito. As the time comes closer and the moon rises, they know that they must press their attack to stop him from casting the infinite Tsukiyomi. Meanwhile, Danzo betrays Orochimaru at the last minute and cuts him down, calling it a casualty of war, knowing nobody can disprove it. As Naruto and Sasuke survive a near-death experience from fighting against Obito, they meet the Sage of Six Paths, who stresses the importance of defeating Obito before the moon rises, and grants them both Six Paths power. Together, the two of them develop a new power, with Naruto developing Six Paths Sage Mode, and Sasuke getting his Rinnegan. Together, they fight and manage to strip Obito of the Ten Tails, defeating him. However, Danzo absorbs the Ten Tails himself after the defeat of Obito and kills him. Danzo, as the new Ten Tails Jinchuriki, plans to use his power to cement his place as the new Hokage, an immortal Hokage, replacing Orochimaru, who he believes he had killed. But before he can do more than this, Black Zetsu takes over his body and transforms him into Kaguya. Naruto and Sasuke fight against her with the aid of Kakashi and Sakura, and they barely even survive. But when Sakura lands a lucky shot on her and Sasuke adds his stage 2 curse mark on top of everything, they manage to touch her and seal her away. They would be returned to the actual world, where they would undo the effects of the infinite Tsukiyomi that Kaguya was attempting to use. They are tired out, and neither can do much of anything. It's at this point that the wounded Orochimaru takes his chance. He uses the living corpse reincarnation jutsu to take over the body of Sasuke, who is too weak to stand against him at this point, having almost no chakra to even cast genjutsu with. Orochimaru takes the body and kills Naruto, Sakura, and Kakashi, the only witnesses, and would reform Sasuke's face to look more like his own. Using his Rinnegan, he recaptures all of the tailed beasts and holds them in secret as his own weapons. For a while, peace would resume, and it would be believed that Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, and Danzo were all casualties of war. Orochimaru would also keep his new dojutsu as a secret, and would further keep the tailed beasts hidden underground in facilities near the Hidden Leaf, and life would resume with each shinobi village having respect for one another and forging alliances. Now, as time passes, Toneri would begin attempting to destroy the world, but this doesn't work as Kumogakure already had the super weapon to destroy the moon, so he was never really a threat, and the movie was more about just reducing Hanabi and Hinata. But you know, Naruto isn't alive anymore, so it isn't like he can marry her, and Orochimaru has no qualms about killing her, so I assume he does so. I could see Orochimaru studying his new Rinnegan and eventually jumping around dimensions where he learns that technique. Imagine his surprise if he finds a God Tree sapling. He would likely get it and bring it back, where he would feed it the 9-tailed beasts he has and absorb it, becoming the next 10 Tails Jinchuriki. And before you can say he can't do that, you should realize that God Tree saplings aren't all that rare. There were so far 3 known to have existed on Earth, and at least 1 owned by Momoshiki and 1 owned by Kara, so that's 5 known God Trees to exist. The issue with this now is considering that the Ten Tails requires an Otsutsuki sacrifice to become viable. Or so it seems. It might just require an Otsutsuki sacrifice to form a chakra fruit, as the one Kara has, despite being much smaller, possessed the Rinne Sharingan and is alive and kicking like the Ten Tails was. All that being said, I sorta doubt that this would stop Orochimaru, as if he's gotten any genetic DNA from any Otsutsuki in the past, or has developed enough to recreate an Otsutsuki genome, he could just clone one and feed it to the Ten Tails. So either way, I don't see that being much of a problem for him. Orochimaru would infuse every tailed beast into his new Ten Tails and absorb it into his body. With this, he gains immortality and becomes the strongest being on Earth and is feared by all. I can see him single-handedly bringing every village under his subjugation. With his newfound immortality, he begins to fulfill his dream of learning every jutsu and uncovering every technique. But wouldn't you know it, Momoshiki and Ishiki show up. You think Ten Tails Jinchuriki Orochimaru in Sasuke's body is gonna just keel over and die to these two? He's gonna kick their asses. And when Ishiki shows up, if he shows up, he's also gonna get whooped because we're talking power that should surpass even Naruto's at this time. So it is safe to say the world is safe from the Otsutsuki for now. Not from Orochimaru, but then again, he will be bringing plenty of development to them, but for many it will be hell. There will be uprisings, but none of them will ever be able to stop him, not without some new hack's ability. And that is where our story ends. I hope you enjoyed it. I always love covering stories that use Orochimaru as a device, and stories where he becomes the Hokage are always so fascinating to me. He is truly a bad guy, but to say he can't lead a village is a lie, because he formed his own nation in like 10 years, and that nation grew strong enough that it nearly crippled a world superpower. In fact, it nearly crippled 2. Don't forget that he killed the 4th Kazekage. But anyway, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below if you have anything you want to share, I'd love to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider it. We would really appreciate it. Ring the bell to be notified when more videos like this drop, and peace.